It was past midnight when Daniel missed the last bus. The city had long gone quiet, just the hum of old street lights and the rattle of loose wires swinging above the cracked asphalt. He wasn't supposed to be there. The outskirts of Hollowbridge weren't exactly safe after dark. Factories slept behind rusted fences, and the smell of oil hung heavy in the air, clinging to his jacket. That's when he saw it, a flicker of light far down the road, a faint orange glow cutting through the fog. A sign swayed on rusty chains above the door. Old Curiosities and Repairs. He'd never noticed it before, though he'd lived in Hollowbridge his whole life. The windows were warped, dusty from decades of neglect, yet something moved inside, shadows that didn't match the stillness of the street. Curiosity, or something darker, pulled him closer. The bell above the door rang, though he swore no wind touched it. The air inside smelled of iron, dust, and faint perfume, like something long dead trying to remember what it was to be beautiful. An old man sat behind the counter, wearing a suit that might have been new half a century ago. His eyes were pale, clouded but sharp, like knives wrapped in fog. "Looking for something specific?" the man asked, voice dry as parchment. Daniel opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. "I'm just waiting for the next bus," he murmured. "There's no bus after midnight," the man said. "But there's always something to buy." A faint ticking filled the room, hundreds of clocks hanging on the walls, each showing a different time. Some ran backward. Some had no hands at all. And one, right behind the counter, was perfectly still, but Daniel swore it beat in time with his heart. The shop seemed to stretch endlessly as he walked between shelves. Every object hummed faintly, as though whispering to itself. A cracked mirror that showed a reflection that smiled a second too late. A music box playing a tune no one could remember. A camera with dried blood where the viewfinder should be. "People bring things here when they can't live with them anymore," the old man said, appearing silently beside him. Daniel turned. "And you sell them?" "I don't sell. I offer trades." He gestured toward a cabinet made of black glass. Inside, a ring pulsed faintly with red light. "It belonged to a woman who wanted her husband to love her forever. Now he does, though she's been dead 10 years. The man smiled. "What do you want, Daniel?" Daniel froze. He hadn't told the man his name. He glanced toward the door, but it was gone. Just endless aisles of things, stretching into the dark. On a low shelf, Daniel saw a dusty wooden frame with a photo of his family, his mother, father, and himself as a child. He hadn't seen that photo in years. He leaned closer, and the image shifted. Their smiles turned to frowns, and his child self was missing from the picture. He looked up. The old man was gone, but the ticking grew louder. "Trade," a whisper said, though no one was there. "For what?" Daniel asked. "Something you won't miss." He reached into his pocket without knowing why, and pulled out his wallet. Inside, the family photo was gone. Only a blank piece of paper remained. The frame on the shelf now showed him standing alone in the dark shop. He stumbled backward, heart pounding. Mirrors lined the walls now, dozens of them. In each, his reflection moved differently. One smiled while another turned away. One pressed its hands against the glass, mouth moving silently. Daniel whispered, "Stop." The reflections all froze. Then they smiled, every one of them. The doorbell rang again, but this time it came from inside the mirrors. The reflections stepped closer, and one whispered in his voice, "You already traded, didn't you? You just don't know for what." The old man appeared again, holding a large leather-bound book. The cover pulsed faintly, like something breathing beneath the skin. "Every deal must be written," he said. "You've signed yours already." Daniel stared. The book showed his name beside a date that hadn't come yet. "What happens then?" he asked. "You'll come back," the old man said. "They always come back." Daniel ran. But every hallway led back to the counter. The clocks on the walls began to melt, dripping brass and gears. He reached for the door, and saw his reflection in the glass. Older, pale, eyes like the shopkeeper's. He screamed, but no sound came out. The bell rang again. Another person entered, a young woman, shivering, eyes wide. She didn't see Daniel. "Welcome," the shopkeeper said softly. "What do you seek?" She whispered something Daniel couldn't hear. The shopkeeper smiled. And behind him, Daniel's reflection grinned. Daniel realized the truth. He wasn't the customer anymore. He was part of the shop. Every item whispered his name. Every mirror held a piece of his face. The ticking grew louder until it became a heartbeat. The old man walked to the back room, where hundreds of photo frames lined the walls. Each held a different face. He placed Daniel's among them. For a moment, the photo blinked. Then it went still. The lights dimmed. The clock stopped. Outside, dawn crept across the horizon. The shop stood silent again, waiting. The sign above the door swayed in the morning breeze. A delivery truck broke down nearby. The driver, frustrated, noticed the flicker of light inside the shop. He walked toward it, unaware of the faint whisper calling his name. The bell rang once more. In Hollowbridge, people still talk about the shop at the edge of town. Some say it burned down years ago. Others swear they've seen its light in the fog. But those who enter never seem to leave quite the same. And if you ever find yourself lost after midnight, and see a faint glow in the distance, don't go inside. Because the shop never closes. It just waits. They called it Black Hollow Lake. No one in town went there anymore. The water had swallowed too many. Still, when Claire found the faded postcard in her late brother's belongings, the one that said, "Meet me where the fog touches the water," she felt something pull her. A chill she couldn't name. A promise she couldn't resist. By sunset she was driving along the winding forest road, headlights cutting through mist so thick it looked alive. Her phone lost signal miles ago. Only the sound of the engine, the faint hum of crickets, and somewhere far ahead, the cry of a loon echoing across unseen water. At the final bend she saw it. A lake like glass. Black, endless, reflecting the moon so sharply it looked like a hole in the world. And there, near the shore, a small wooden cabin with one light burning. The cabin smelled of wet wood and mold. Everything inside was coated with dust, except a single chair facing the window. On the table lay a leather journal. Her brother's handwriting covered every page. "It calls to me at night," one entry read. "Voices under the surface. They sound like home." Claire's pulse quickened. She stepped outside, the cold air biting her lungs. Fog crawled along the water, coiling like smoke. Something rippled near the middle of the lake, though there was no wind. The reflection of the moon fractured, like something moved beneath it. A whisper reached her, soft as breath. "Claire!" She froze. The voice was unmistakable, her brother's. It came from the lake itself, each syllable rising with the ripples. "Ethan?" she called, her voice trembling. The water stilled. Then came a sound, like knuckles rapping gently on wood, from deep below the surface. 1, 2, 3. As if something waited for her answer. Her flashlight flickered. For a moment she saw faces in the mist, pale, submerged, their eyes open and unblinking. When the beam steadied, they were gone. In the journal, another entry read, "They said the lake was built on a town. When the dam burst in '62, it took everyone. But some say the dead never left. The water remembers." Claire closed the book, heart hammering. Outside, a faint glow pulsed beneath the surface, like lanterns swaying in the deep. And for a second she thought she saw buildings down there. Roofs. Windows. A streetlight still flickering underwater. Morning never came. The fog only thickened. Claire stepped outside and saw wet footprints leading from the lake to her cabin door. They stopped right behind her. Her breath turned to steam. "Who's there?" she whispered. No answer. Only the soft drip of water, like something invisible was standing beside her, still soaked. A knock on the door. A man in a torn raincoat stood outside, face hidden beneath a hood. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped. "No one leaves the lake after hearing their name." She demanded answers, but he only stared at the water. "It feeds on memories," he said. "Once it knows who you are, it'll call until you answer." Before she could reply, he vanished into the fog, leaving wet footprints behind that led straight into the lake. Night again, or maybe it never ended. Claire looked into the water and saw her reflection smiling back. But she wasn't. The reflection lifted a hand, holding the leather journal. Then it began to sink slowly, eyes open, mouth whispering her name backward. Claire screamed and threw a rock. Ripples spread, and the reflection was gone. But her own voice echoed back, faint and warped. "Come closer." She found a boat tied to the dock. Old, creaking, half submerged. She climbed in, flashlight trembling. The water glowed faintly below, hundreds of lights drifting beneath the surface, each like a soul trapped in glass. She leaned over the edge, mesmerized. One lantern floated upward, rising until it touched the hull. Inside, a face pressed against the glass. Her brother. He mouthed something. "Trade places." The light shattered. The boat lurched violently, rocking as if something massive swam beneath it. The fog parted briefly, and Claire saw them. Figures walking on the lakebed beneath her, moving slowly, their hair drifting upward like seaweed. Their faces were familiar. The missing. The lost. They all looked up at once, and smiled. Hands rose from the water, grasping the boat's sides. Dozens of them. Cold, pale, dripping. Icy water swallowed her whole. She tried to scream, but only bubbles escaped. The lake was deeper than it looked, endless, dark, filled with faint whispers. Shapes moved in the gloom. Buildings half collapsed, lampposts tilted, and among them, doorways glowing faintly blue. She drifted toward one, unable to resist. Inside was a house. Her house. From years ago. Her brother stood in the doorway, dry and smiling. "Welcome home," he said. When Claire opened her eyes, she was lying on the shore. The cabin stood empty behind her. The lake was calm again, the morning sun just breaking the mist. The journal lay beside her, pages blank. Relief washed through her. But as she stood, water poured from her sleeves. She looked down. Her reflection in a puddle smiled back. and whispered, "You shouldn't have left us." Weeks later, hikers found the cabin abandoned. Only one thing remained, a journal floating in the shallows, its pages water-stained but legible. "It called my name again," the last entry read. "This time," I answered. "Locals say the fog still rises thicker on moonless nights. And sometimes, if you stand by the shore long enough, you'll hear someone whisper your name from beneath the water. If you do, don't answer. Because the lake remembers. And it never gives back what it takes."